Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us and Happy New Year. This is our first virtual panel of 2021, Designing the Perfect Year-Round Outdoor Entertaining Spaces, something that we all are looking to do right now. We are delighted to be co-producing this talk with Josh Cooperman, the publisher of Convo by Design and Director of Content and Growth at Urban Bonfire. We look forward to introducing you to our panelists and diving into a very enlightening discussion. But first, I would like to introduce you to our moderator, Lindsay Shook, Editorial and Brand Director of California Home and Design and the Global Content Creator. Lindsay, thank you so much for coming today and moderating our talk, and I will turn this over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me, Christine. Clearly, outdoor entertaining and designing outdoor spaces is a key element of California design, so I can't think of a better topic to discuss. And I'd like to share that the background that I'm in front of right now is from our current issue. It's one of my favorite spaces recently that shows really how seamless interior and exterior can be, even with finishes and furnishings and decor. It's by Allison DeMonte and Signum Architecture in Wine Country, and it's actually a customized prefab home, which is really fun story. So anyway, if you have our issue, take a look, read the story. If not, it's on our website. And let's go ahead and get started. I'd love to introduce our panelists this afternoon. And if you could just say hello, say a little bit about yourself and your company, and then we'll jump right into it. Lori, let's start with you.
Hi, I'm Lori Hafela with Hafela Design, and I'm based out of Santa Monica, California, and I do high-end residential kitchens, wardrobes, baths, and outdoor kitchens. This is an example of a kitchen that I did in Bel Air. That's a traditional one.
Beautiful.
Oh. Thanks.
All right, Ryan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Bloom. I am the president and one of the two co-founders of Urban Bonfire. We are based in Montreal, Canada, and have representation and dealer partners across North America. Our entire essence of our brand and company is to help people create the same level of design, aesthetic, functionality, beauty, and usage outdoors as indoors, and that is exactly what we are dedicated to, your kitchen outdoors and not the outdoor kitchen.
Beautiful. And last but not least, Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike Grosswint, president of All Coast Construction. We do renovations, new construction, estate maintenance, and we're based in Los Angeles. This picture is of Hollywood Hills. This picture here is a Christine London installation in Brentwood.
And the picture before that, I know the project well. It was a project by Gary Hutton, correct?
Correct. Gary Hutton and Joe McRitchie. Gary Hutton out of San Francisco, Joe McRitchie out of Seattle. That was the Sunset Plaza Art House.
Yes, we featured that one in our magazine, so I'm familiar. Beautiful work. Well, thank you all for being here. It sounds like there's no shortage of expertise here, so let's get started. I want to start with Mike. How can we translate the California outdoor living style and standard to other locations where weather may not be so consistent?
Well, I think you have to adapt. The weather is consistent in California, but it can be severe. So we get a lot of sun. So here you can have an umbrella, or you could have a patio cover. So if your weather is rain, you're going to want to have a cover from the rain. You're going to want to have a patio cover. You want to build that. If your weather is coolness, you might want to enclose. You may want to enclose with glass. But I think you just have to adapt to what the requirements of the environment are.
So technically, you can mimic some of the details and the finishes, but you just have to alter the protection.
Yeah, I think it's important to pick the right materials, durable materials, which will be dictated by the style that you're building. And then you have to protect them. You either protect them with a roof cover, or you protect them with awnings, or you protect them with patio furniture covers, barbecue covers. And then lastly, and maybe most important, is you want to maintain your outdoor environment. It requires more maintenance than an indoor environment. Sure. You want to clean, clean frequently and keep it looking fresh and new. because it's more exposed than your indoor environments.
Yes, and one little weird leaf stain can drive you nuts if you don't keep it clean. I know from experience. So, Laura, I have a question for you next. So, what do you see as the most important design features in an outdoor space?
Well, I was going to talk about pretty much what Mike just said about weatherability of materials. I think that that's really important in all weather conditions. I've been using solid acrylic doors for my contemporary projects, and my traditional projects, I use a teak door that gets sent to Maine to have a yacht finish on it. So
Wow.
they're super durable. The carcass boxes are made out of plastic. So it's just impervious to all weather. That would, yeah, so I think that, but also I think, one of the things was the trends on, kitchens. And I think like the waterfall trend is kind of overdone, but I think for an outdoor space, it makes a lot of sense.
You're saying the waterfall, a trend that's overdone right now is the waterfall island or kitchen.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
what are you seeing instead of?
No, I mean, it's still happening. And so I think for outdoor kitchens, it's important to keep that trend, but maybe, let up a little bit on the interior.
All right, so this next question goes to all of you, and Ryan, we can kick it off with you, but what advice would you give to homeowners who are working with small outdoor spaces but want to maximize the impact?
Well, I think that today, with real advances in technology of materials and manufacturers, and a little bit to your earlier point about just in the last 10 years, sun, shade, outdoor heat, materials and fabrics. I mean, we are at a level in the last 10 years that we've not seen in outdoor opportunity. 10 years ago, the idea of a flat screen emerging over an infinity pool was really just a concept, and today readily available. So I think that more than ever today, the outdoor space is the executive summary of people's indoor homes, where they have tremendous ability to pick and choose and highlight the most meaningful aspects of their interior lives and personify them outdoors. So if that's someone with an infinity pool and a huge TV that comes out so they can watch the football game, great. And if it's someone who wants to recreate an outdoor shower in Costa Rica, because that's what's meaningful to them about their space, they can. And that's the nice thing. It doesn't need large amounts of space to be impactful. It needs to be memorable. And I think that is design cohesion and aesthetic. And to my colleagues' earlier points, material selection that is that are designed thoughtfully, that are not a compromise aesthetically, but also knowing to the earlier points, outdoor maintenance is harder. It's more of a pain in the butt. It's not something people typically do or do a lot of, and to be thoughtful about things like that. So it is more joyous and less maintenance.
Right, and so really in smaller spaces, it's picking your passion point, and you're probably taking more care, even though you might have less things, but you're seeing it more. So you really have to keep the maintenance up in small spaces. What about you, Lori? What do you think is important in designing a small space?
Well, I think one of the mistakes that people make is adding on like countertop appliances, like the Kalamazoo pizza oven or a separate, gas burner, something like that. I think it's really important in a small outdoor kitchen to make the countertop accessible and keep it as clear as possible. I think that's prime real estate, really.
Open, clean lines.
Yeah, and the countertop being clear, don't load it up with countertop appliances.
Got it. How about you, Mike? Any tips?
It's my job to implement the designs of people like Lori and Ryan. But if I were advising somebody, I would look to what your primary use is. If it's a large space and you want it for entertaining, then you want an outdoor living room with a TV. If it's a small space for a solo pursuit, maybe reading or whatever your hobby may be, then it's going to be a different environment. So I would probably listen to what the client wants to primarily use it for. And I think that for most people, it's going to be cooking and entertaining. So I think it's kitchens and outdoor living rooms. I think the trend is outdoor living rooms, and for me, and you want to take that unused space and make it just as usable as your interior space.
Well, that leads me to my next question that I'd love all of you to chime in on is, it both inside and outside, we always have to strike the fine balance of functionality and aesthetic. And with all these outdoor living rooms, coming in and basically being designed into every space right now in California, what is that fine line outdoor of having a really comfortable outdoor living space, a really beautiful water feature, a beautiful kitchen that lacks functionality. So what's the balance? What do you strike for? Lori, we'll
Well,
start.
I often say, oh, sorry. I
Go ahead.
often say this, that it's very easy to make a kitchen or a space beautiful. To me, that's the fun part of our job. And I think as designers, we're taught that. So that's the easy part. But making it functional and practical for the particular client, that's the challenging part. So, definitely listen to your client's needs. And, the clients are always going to give you, what's that phrase, like 100 pounds in a 10-pound bag? They're going to give you so much more requirement. They're going to give you so much. So you have to learn how to pare it down with them and see really what do they really functionally need. And then work that way.
How about you, Ryan? I'm sure you guys struggle with, pushing boundaries with design while still keeping things at, with the most durable and the most functional.
Yeah, and I want to come back to a point that Lori made, and I could not. I'm so glad she said it because so few people actually do. The overload of appliance into outdoor cooking space is so detrimental in actual usage to the consumer. People often forget anything outdoors is bigger. Platters are bigger, tongs are bigger, the food is bigger. If you don't have sufficient counter space, it is such an unbelievable disservice. And I think one of the struggles, and I'll answer your question, is the way outdoor kitchens have historically been presented in appliance, whether it's specialty or luxury appliance, have been very much driven by the appliance companies who have vested interest in packing that space full of as much stainless steel appliance stuff as possible. I get it. That's what they sell. That's what they want to show. But in actual day-to-day usage, a small space that is jammed full of access panels and fridges and power burners and this, and there's no space to breathe, actually is a detrimental effect, both stylistically and from a usage perspective to the person who's using that space. So I completely agree that it sounds very simple, but having sufficient counter space, which is stylistically more beautiful and functionally far more meaningful to the actual user, to Lori's point, to me is the biggest bullseye feature to be thinking about in outdoor space design, certainly as it relates to the kitchen.
I'm sure you've all seen it where, I think also, minimizing your appliance overload can help keep the kitchen more timeless and classic, because people often want to update their grills and then you have to change the shape of the island. So it sounds like it's lay low on the appliance, having what you really truly want and what's crucial to your way of life.
And to that, if I could, to that point, what's also interesting, talking about product development and technology, and mentioned earlier the Kalamazoo pizza oven. I have one. It is a remarkable product. It is the Ferrari, but it is big. And today there are the Uni pizza oven that is under $500 that you take out when you need it and is producing restaurant quality product. So as product development happens, you don't need as much space committed for the occasional pizza or the occasional thing. There are a lot of accessories that can be added. For sure.
So just need storage. I didn't hear about the Uni pizza oven. That's very interesting.
Amazing product.
Mike, let me ask you this. What types of construction dilemmas do you run into when working in a difficult climate?
Difficult climate. Well, I'm based in LA, so I don't have a lot of experience with that. I think probably I used to build in Hawaii, and whenever the surf would come up, nobody would show up for work. That was probably the biggest challenge I've ever encountered.
Just getting people to work, right?
But aside from that,
I mean, you have been dealing with fire issues over the past several years, and how does that change how you build?
For us, the biggest problem is when we're in a remote location. Like we were recently building in Santa Ynez, and it's up in the mountains, and it's an hour drive to get there, and that's difficult. But for the majority of my work, I think that you're fighting the wind and the heat are the two biggest problems. This past year is an outlier considering the amount of fire and the amount of smoke that we've had. And so that's a problem without saying, but typically high winds and extreme temperatures in heat are the biggest problems that we face. And we do it by working safely. You know, right now we all wear face masks, and in high wind conditions, we sometimes, with smoke, we'll wear face masks. We wear hats. We have shade areas for workers. So we adapt to the environment, which is really what we're talking about everybody doing, adapting to the environment.
Is there a different process when building the interior of a home versus the exterior, aside from just laying different materials? Or is it the same construction process for you?
No, half of the interior starts with putting in the foundation and framing the house. So obviously it's easier to work once you're closed in. It's easier to work on the inside of the house. But again, in California, generally things are pretty temperate. As long as we don't have a lot of wind or a lot of heat, things go well. When we have a lot of wind and heat, we adapt. We wear protective gear, and we're pretty well used to it. The COVID has been, again, an outlier. That's really affects how we work. We have to distance, we have to wear masks. You can't huddle. And that's all been unusual. But again, everybody has adapted. You know, it's affected the schedule slightly, but not much. And everybody's been able to work safe in my company. So
The year of the pivot, that's what I keep saying.
so we adapt to whatever the conditions are and make it happen.
And you know, Ryan, we were talking earlier, especially in California. I know you're in Canada, but you travel the world, I'm sure, with your business.
Yeah.
The outdoor living room, the outdoor kitchen, everything outdoors is really, truly, especially in Southern California, an extension of the interior. So from your perspective in, you know, the kitchen, how do you design with, you know, with every region in mind? Like,
Well, there are certain fundamental principles in that we've designed a product that, you know, obviously has to work in the saltwater environment of being on the coast versus the UV and the wind effects of being in Palm Springs, to the humidity of Miami, to the bitter, dry cold of northern Quebec. So that's been very thoughtfully engineered into our product. It's also one of the limiting factors why we don't have 30 colors and 15 door styles, because I can't put my stamp on a level of durability with that many options. So that's often one of the concessions why people sometimes choose not to work with our product, for example. But I believe that you show me a consumer, even a very wealthy one, who is ready, willing for more maintenance, something more to seal, polish, stain, and I will show you a subset of a subset of a subset of the market. So we really go for maximum usage and enjoyment with minimal need for maintenance. And we do that based on the idea of following indoor kitchen design principles with outdoor grade materials. I don't believe now, nor have I ever, that the user should sacrifice aesthetic functionality and use just because it's outdoors and it's 8 feet from the indoor kitchen. And I think historically that has been the case. And one basic example, if you look at the history of outdoor kitchen design, typically large hollow frames with finishing and stainless steel access doors. And I would challenge a designer to ever show an indoor kitchen that has been designed in that way. Right. So my answer, or my question that I ask myself, my partner, my team constantly is, or our pledge as a company is, if it doesn't work indoor, we're not going to do it outdoor. And that's our defining line. That's great. It's
seen in your, very noticeable in your product. Do you notice if, you know, by region, if people are using the outdoor kitchens differently, or is everyone kind of in the same, you know, format and experience?
More and more. And I think that the the base level opposition, if you will, is, you know, in Montreal or in Chicago or somewhere where it's harsh climate, Boston, New York, you know, it's winter 4 or 5 months a year. I'm not going to use it as much. And my response to that is, if that were the case, nobody in these areas no one would buy a sports car. No one would have a golf membership. You have to celebrate what you're given. And these places you can ski and you can do other things, but it's about the quality of the experience, not necessarily the quantity. And the best example of that is, how often do people use their indoor dining rooms? At least in my life, it's a handful of times a year. Most of the time we're in the kitchen, but I've dedicated a huge amount of space and investment to the dining room. So if I use the same psychology, I put relative compared to indoor space investment into an outdoor area, and the return on investment for that spend experientially is incredible.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone who's invested in that this year's been very pleased, having to find new rooms to spend time in all year long, right? And Laurie, I'd love to know, in terms of how you design, with all the different kitchens and outdoor spaces you work with, what is your approach to making it an extension of the interior?
Well, obviously, like the picture behind you, nano doors that open up with the flooring being the same material, continuing the inside to the outside is really important. One project that I did in the kitchen, I had the countertop look like it went through the window to the outdoor countertop for the outdoor kitchen. So it just looked like an extension of the kitchen from the inside to the outside. That was just one project, but we live in Southern California half the time outside. So everything we do.
I love seeing kitchen windows open to bars, and I just think it's really clever to see how people are making.
Yeah, especially if you entertain. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And anything fun you've recently had, designed or been requested to design that's beyond the kitchen, like anything rare?
Well, right now I'm working on an outside buffet. It's a really unusual project. We're doing induction heating and a paella station and a carving station, and it has a pizza oven. It's pretty unique.
Yeah, so they like to have events.
Yeah. Large family. Yeah.
Well, I'd love to throw a question to all of you, and Mike, we can start with you, but what are your thoughts on greater utilization of outdoor spaces in the future? Clearly the pandemic has given everyone an appreciation of their outdoor space and needing more outdoor space. So what does the future outdoor floor plan look like to you?
Well, I can speak personally. The pandemic has forced myself and my wife to look at our backyard much more closely. Yeah. And this came up earlier. You don't want to overutilize the space. We want the outdoor kitchen. We have an outdoor barbecue now, but we'd like more of an outdoor kitchen, more of the products that Ryan has available. We want an outdoor seating area to watch sports or the news in an outdoor environment. But the balance is, we mostly want to look out and see beauty. I think we want to look out and see a beautiful environment where the landscaping and the hardscape is predominant. And this eating and resting area have the right balance. We want to look out and see the pool, beautiful plants, whatever it may be that people want. I think everybody wants that. They've realized how valuable their home is to restore the spirit. And even when the pandemic ends, I believe people are going to have much more appreciation for time spent at home.
I agree.
I believe that we will all be spending much more time at home. And I believe it'll spark a renaissance in design for both interior and exterior, home offices. And as Ryan pointed out, the return on value for improving your outside is tremendous. Yeah. I don't have the ability, without spending a lot of money, to improve my living room, but I can go outside and create a secondary area at a fraction of the cost and enjoy it just as much. Yeah. So I think there's going to be a real renaissance in thought and design as a result of the pandemic.
Agreed. And you actually bring up a good point for me, at least. I've received a lot of projects where, I'm very much into plants and landscaping myself. So, and I think the hardscaping has been too structured, too much of a kitchen scene, too much of a living room scene, too much of a water feature scene. And there's not really a balance. So it's something I would love to see shift a little bit, because I do think seeing green and seeing water does give you a little bit more of a mental balance, and so Laurie, what do you think about the future floor plan of the outdoor kitchen and space?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you said makes a lot of sense. I am kind of excited about new technology. Like I mentioned that we're doing induction on that one barbecue. There is a product called InvisiCook, where it's in the stone and you don't see the heating element at all. So I'm starting to specify that a lot, just because again, the countertop space, like Ryan said, is so important in these outdoor kitchens. So instead of having like a separate double gas burner, I'm doing the induction heating so that the countertop's not, wasted when it's not in use.
Love that. And Ryan, what about you? How are you guys envisioning the future for your own product?
We don't see our product, although we sell a fairly finite series of products, we always see ourselves as one of the elements of an outdoor space. What we are trying to do is think about the cooking and entertaining area in a very similar way as people do indoors. And most people know that their indoor kitchens are grand central of their lives. It goes far beyond a range and a fridge. It's where my kids do their homework. I have a glass of wine with my wife, my bill. It's really main and main, not only for the physical home, but for my life. And if you apply the same psychology to that outdoors, one of the things that I'm loving seeing, and I know having seen Laurie's work, she's a strong proponent, is that the traditional outdoor kitchen has been historically linear and facing a wall, which immediately removes the user from the audience, the guests. His or her back is now facing to the guests. It doesn't mimic indoor, where you typically have an island feature where you're facing your guests and the people around you, whether you're prepping, cooking, serving. And I love to see that outdoor design is starting to mimic and mirror those types of principles that go far beyond just, historically an outdoor kitchen, there was like this synonymous term with it's a barbecue. And I think that it is so much more vast, and hearing about building buffets and serving areas and things that have no cooking in them whatsoever, but change the entire functionality and usage of that space. And I think that is what is going to be instrumental in getting people to appreciate, invest in the outdoors, not as the historic afterthought, and maybe differently in California, but in most other places, we do the indoors and then we do the outdoors as an entirely separate thing. But there is such a dynamic relationship between the two that create far more functionality. If you do them at the same time, save the consumer a lot of money, and then you at least get coherence and consistency between the two pods.
Well, especially now that we're forced to entertain outdoors, right? If we want to be around friends and not be exposed to COVID. Yep. So, I do see, and at least in what we're seeing being submitted to the magazine, is there's a lot more dimension to the social angle of how kitchens are designed and how outdoor spaces are designed.
Yep.
All right, tell me, what if you had to choose like one outdoor feature that you advise, either whether it be your favorite or what you think is the most important feature someone should consider, whether it be a kitchen, a water feature, bathroom, what do you think is, the best thing to always include?
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's possible, water features are really important. I just think they're just healing. Water's so healing, and just, hearing it and seeing it, I think that's probably really important. Outdoor speakers, I think, are really important, to have background music. And I would think probably those two are really important to just for the overall ambiance of the space.
For sure. Yeah. Ryan, Mike, what about you? What's your preferred outdoor feature?
I'll grab, and it's not a product that we manufacture, that we sell, but I think that the great difference maker in wow factor and creating intimacy is lighting.
I was going to say,
And I think there is an incredible opportunity today. Again, can be very expensive, can also be very, very moderate, with things from lights to LEDs to candles that can turn a space from to a sexy oasis in the flick of a switch. So it's
Agreed.
the most under leveraged, to me, the most under leveraged finishing touch on an outdoor space absolutely is lighting, in
and
my
I'd like to
opinion.
see some more outdoor lamps. I think that's such an opportunity because it's something you can store, but it just creates such a beautiful ambiance, just like a home, right?
Yeah.
How about you, Mike? What do you guys see as a key feature for outdoor, outdoor living?
Well, I would concur with Ryan. I can drive through Coldwater Canyon during the day and it's very dull and brown and nondescript. And you drive through in the evening when all the landscape lighting's on, and then all of a sudden you're in Disneyland. Lighting is probably the most important component outside. Other than that, we're getting a lot of requests for socializing areas, destinations. It can be a fire pit. It can be a seating area. It can be a TV. People want to gather three or four seating, room for 3 or 4 people to sit and have a glass of wine and converse. And it could be accented by a fire pit or a water feature or even a TV. That's what I see a lot of requests for.
And Mike, when we spoke earlier, I know you mentioned you've been getting some requests for outdoor art galleries and rooftop entertainment spaces. So why is that shift? Is that a new trend you're seeing or a new request you're seeing, or is this something that's been coming along?
Well, I think it's just on my mind. The picture behind me is a rooftop of a high rise in Los Angeles. And the client walled off all the mechanical condensers and air conditioning equipment and created a really beautiful seating area. You have 2 barbecues there with tables. This is an apartment building. You've got a bar that seats several people. You've got a circular seating area on the left there with a fire pit. And yeah, I wouldn't say it's a trend, but a lot of people are interested in their rooftop. It's typically unused space, especially along the coast. A lot of observation rooftops where they can see the water or have a nice view of the town or whatever. People are looking for areas where they can relax with their family or with their friends and share conversation. I think that's always been a predominant requisite or trend.
And the outdoor art galleries is this like massive sculpture gardens you're seeing, or anything unique you've recently experienced?
Well, obviously with the high-end clientele, outdoor artwork is very important. But we're not restricted to high-end. We do a lot of small projects. And even on small projects, yes, I think the average person has an interest in art, whether it's a simple sculpture or a simple water feature, or an object, or even just an object placed in their backyard. That's always popular. Absolutely.
Good. It's nice to hear. It makes me happy. Makes editorial way more fun, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
This is a question I'd love to hear, love to pose to all of you. Personally, I'd love to know from our point of view, what one request are you receiving the most in all of your work? So like, Ryan, I know you guys really work together as a team to create a product, but when you're speaking to your sales staff, your customers, what's the one request you're hearing the most that considering a shift?
I think that we are seeing a defocus on appliance and a refocus on activity. And what I mean by that is people thinking about the outdoor space, it might have just been for burgers or steaks a couple of years ago. And now we have clients saying, I want to jar tomatoes. I want to make jam. I want to grow my own herbs and tomatoes. I want to maximize not only the physical, but also the experiential possibility of what this space can deliver. And that's an amazing thing. And I say frequently, with this worldwide move towards urbanization and people now living in smaller spaces than they might have 10 years ago, that is both an incredible challenge and the most amazing opportunity for the design community, because the client who loves to garden on 3 acres in Arizona still wants to garden in a 20 by 20 outdoor deck off of a 1,500 square foot condo. So that's where the designer's creativity has never been as important, and such incredible responsibility to be able to deliver those experiential elements on a one-off basis to their clients. And that's what I'm seeing. It's not a space, it is a room, and it is being planned to that level of detail.
I love that. Yeah, we've actually just recently featured a landscape designer whose focus is solely urban gardening and how it fits seamlessly within your landscaping. So I'm pleased to hear that. How about you, Lori? Go ahead, sorry.
No, please.
Lori, what's
ahead,
the
Ryan.
request you're getting right now?
Go ahead, Ryan, you finished.
Just to finish that, we have a client, we just finished a kitchen in Manhattan on a rooftop, and this client happened to buy some of our planters because he is growing his own potatoes. Now think about the cost of real estate in Manhattan, and he is so enamored with the idea of urban gardening, he's growing potatoes. And that's what we're seeing as that evolution of the consumer. I'm sorry, Lori, I didn't mean to jump in.
No problem. No problem. So I was going to say that I agree with you, Ryan, about the appliances. People are wanting less appliances, and they definitely don't want to see them. So we're doing as much as possible to do cabinet panel ready appliances on the outdoor spaces. The other thing, I had a project where the client didn't want to see the barbecue at all. So I used a caliber barbecue that has like a round lid on it that slides down underneath. So it's just a flat grill when it's in an open position. And then I did a square lid on it that tilted up. So basically it just looked like a countertop. And then the lid lifts up, and then you open, and close the actual lid to the barbecue. So, even, altering some, customizing some parts of actual appliances in order to get a seamless look without, any appliance.
It's funny because I see that both interior as well. Many people want to conceal, but then some people are just so obsessed with the design of the range and the hood that it's all over the place. But I really want to see that grill, Lori. That sounds fascinating. And Mike, what about you? What's the biggest request? Well, I guess you guys aren't. You're building, but what are you seeing the most?
I see everything because I'm building, I'm renovating, and I'm doing estate maintenance. I would turn the question slightly in the direction of the number one request that I get from my clients is for quality. And I think that through the internet and digital information, this is quality and design and beauty are not exclusive to the rich or the elite. Everyone has become much more sophisticated in what they want out of their homes, much more sophisticated in style, much more sophisticated in furniture, much more sophisticated in equipment. And so everybody I talk to is looking for, they want it to be right. They want it beautiful, and they want quality. I would say the second most popular request is how little money can you do it for?
Right. I think that's global. So
that would be the follow-up question. But people are very sophisticated. Everyone is very sophisticated and doing beautiful things. Beautiful things are occurring everywhere at every level, and I like that.
Yeah, I see people are much more interested in design, I think, which is
there's a real understanding and appreciation for it.
Well, I'd love to end with one question, post you all again, and then open up to our guests who can type in the chat any questions you have, and I can repeat them to our panelists to answer. But I'd love to know, and I'm sure most people would love to know, is how your business has shifted as a result of the pandemic in a positive way. So what have you changed or pivoted, the word of the year, that will remain one of your practices? Ryan, let's start with you.
I think that we have learned, and this was a hypothesis, and I think it's been very much proven, that the way the consumer interacts with the outdoor kitchen has been very different on an indoor and an outdoor level. And I say in most cases, if a client works with a incredible design professional to help them envision the kitchen of their dreams, because it is that central gathering space, that main and main, it is extremely rare, if not highly unlikely, that the design professional would say, let's start with a range and let's build your life around that appliance. Historically, or conversely, in outdoor, it is often started with, let's pick a grill and let's work and build around the appliance. And we're seeing that as a major, major shift. And I'll also say, to Lori's point, and I love that she brought up the Rockwell by Caliber. I think it's a brilliant product. And I think it is, aside from its performance, and I've seen the project that Lori developed it with, and the custom, it's spectacular. Grills by nature block view. When the lid is up, a view corridor is diminished or completely removed. So the more appliances go flat and sleek and they blend versus pop, the more they are being welcomed into a space because they don't feel like they shouldn't be there. And I think that's what we've seen now, as people putting far more focus, to answer your question, far more focus into the aesthetic cohesion than on the BTUs or the grade of stainless steel on a grill. That's coming secondary or tertiary in certain cases. And that's very refreshing, because I think it follows traditional kitchen design principles that have been ingrained in indoor design for much of modern history.
Interesting. How about you, Lori? Anything even personally within your own business practices and processes that have shifted that will remain?
Yeah, well, because I'm in New York right now, I've been here since the pandemic started. So I think that's what, 8 months now. Every single one of my meeting is Zoom. And I have a kind of a funny story. The very first time I did a Zoom meeting, I didn't realize my son had changed the some program, and it was, my face was Bart Simpson. So when I was talking, it was Bart Simpson. And of course, everybody laughed hysterically, but I couldn't figure out how to get rid of Bart. So now I know, I've got it down now. So, but
really,
yeah.
digital communication is the main change.
Yeah, I mean, if I thought 10 years ago I could run my business from my hometown and my childhood home, it's, you know, it would be, I wouldn't have believed it. I mean, it's shocking that I'm able to do that. I'm still just as busy. I have just as many projects. I mean, people are working with me remotely, which is really amazing. I never thought that would be possible. Yeah,
I keep saying that Southern California, business interaction is going to really shift after this as a result.
Yeah.
How about you guys, Mike? I know you guys have really had to put in some strong and rigid protocols with building, since, it seems like construction and building has remained open pretty much since this started. So what's been the biggest shift that will remain for your company?
Working from home is huge. I've discovered I get more done working from home. And it's really freed up the freeways. The freeways are finally working as they were designed to work.
Yep.
So that when you do have to go somewhere, you get there quickly. I'd like to see that continue. I think working from home is where possible should be utilized. Obviously, for our working employees that are working on the houses, that doesn't matter. But I just think people have a much higher appreciation for their homes, the whole home, the inside, the outside. And I just think the future is people really fashioning their homes more in their image, what makes them happy, what makes them relax, what allows them to enjoy it.
Yes, it's all great for our industry.
Yeah, I don't see it slowing down, because people want to improve their homes.
Yeah, I mean, I think the home will continue to be more flexible, right? It's not going to be traditional and formulaic. I think it's going to have a lot of flexibility. And I'm very interested to see how the interior floor plan changes and how the open floor plan might shift a bit. I think that will happen, but that's just because I have a 5-year-old and a husband that is working at home as well and needs to hide. So maybe I've experienced that more, but yeah, I definitely, you know, I know I can tell you from our perspective, one thing that's shifted is just, you know, not having to see each other in person and still actually forming extremely deep and meaningful connections and gathering, you know, meaningful content as a result. And for that, we've been very thankful. I have one question from a guest, from Dina. She's asking, and I'll put this out to you all, what materials do you recommend for outdoor kitchen countertops and floors? And this is a very big question because, you know, beauty can definitely halt function here if you don't have the right stone, if you know, it's not honed, if it's like all the different factors that come into play. What's the best material selection, Lori?
Well, what I'm using right now a lot, it's one of my new favorite products, is Sapien Stone. It's a porcelain slab out of Italy. And I just love it. The veining is all the way through the product. So if you want to have a thin countertop, it's not a weird edge. It's indoor, outdoor material. It's, you know, you can't really destroy it. It's amazing.
Yeah, porcelain's great. So you can use it interior and then also exterior and around pools and.
Yeah, I'm using it everywhere.
Huh.
I love it.
How about you, Mike? Anything you think is the best choice of material for countertop and floor?
Who is that for?
For Mike, sorry.
Oh, I agree with Lori. The porcelain slabs are a huge innovation in the industry right now. I think it depends a lot on the style of the home, whether it's a traditional home or a mid-century or a modern. With a mid-century, I recommend concrete, brick, or concrete. With a traditional, I would recommend brick walkways, stone countertops, stone, marble, concrete, brick, durable surfaces, surfaces that like the weather.
Are people using a lot of marble outside still?
No,
No,
more granite. The porcelain is popular. Not so much marble.
Right.
Although
Ryan,
there is some, you know.
Of course. Ryan, what about you guys? I mean, this is something I'm sure you're perfecting nonstop.
I agree with both my colleagues. I think it comes down to stylistic elements. And we see, you know, for example, historically in Nashville, countertops are 1.25 inches, for example. And in New York, it's very rare you'd see something not done in a 3/4 inch. So there's definitely regional style and trend, and we track this type of data. I think it also comes down to a degree of what is your maintenance tolerance. So I love poured concrete. I have one in our showroom, but it doesn't take long for that to get beat up, whether it's oil or red wine or something like that. It comes down to the user's tolerance for the aging nature of that product. What I can tell you statistically is over 95% of urban bonfires projects end up with Decton as the recommended or the specified material for it. It's a great outdoor product. It provides all the benefits of indoor quartz in an outdoor material. And I don't have a dog in the fight if I have no economic upside on countertop, not at all. But I can tell you statistically, it's used because lots of colors, the ability to do, to Lori's point, waterfall, built up edges, backsplashes, flooring, it's all part of that same sort of product category.
You can basically, I've seen them like flame decked on and nothing happened to it. It's just one of the most amazing materials I've seen. All right, we have a few more questions. One from Polly. We are a home theater and media room designers, and we are experiencing a massive uptick in requests for outdoor media rooms and technology upgrades. And they're always asked if they could recommend designers who can do kitchen designs. So we'd love to collaborate. Like, how can you connect directly with some of our guests here? On social is the best place to reach you, your websites?
Probably website.
We just did an outdoor theater, a giant screen and a digital rear projection. The projector is behind the screen, a giant lawn in front of it. And it's amazing. It's a sit down on the lawn and enjoy a big screen. And I mean, 12 feet high and 30 feet wide,
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So,
Right
yeah,
now that it's
I
going to
can see
movie
that
theater.
happening. And that is exactly what they do. So they can contact me through my website, allcoastconstruction.com. And we're always interested in meeting talented vendors.
Yeah, I think we'll continue to see more outdoor theaters. Natalie asks, any particular favorite brand for kitchen appliances? I think, Lori, that's a great question for you and Ryan.
Yeah, I think for refrigeration, I like True. Really, mostly because you can hide the hinge if you have a panel. That's really the only appliance that you can do that with. Perlic's also a good outdoor, I think a good outdoor product. For refrigeration, I'd say I do like the Caliber Rockwell that we talked about earlier because of the design aesthetics of it. But Kalamazoo is always a favorite for sure.
Wonderful. How about you, Ryan? Any favorites?
I have to be, by nature, my company and our product line is effectively brand agnostic because our system is designed to work with all major brands and sizes. As part of the value proposition of our product, I want the consumer to be able to use any grill, any fridge, any side burner, any pizza oven, any specialty piece within the confines of the cabinetry line that I make. I agree with Lori. I am a huge fan of Kalamazoo. And I also think that a lot of companies over the last several years have made what may seem like small technological advances, but they have had huge impacts. Heston, for example, with its color scheme, with the way that it is designed its system, Lynx, for example, with how light it is to lift lid. A number of these companies, whether it was done with premeditation or not, have effectively done something miraculous for this category and for themselves. And I believe that for far too long, women were a demographic that was effectively ignored from outdoor kitchen design. There was this innate, man beat chest, man make fire, man cook steak.
And grills.
Very, very, and when we were in retail and serving the consumer here in Montreal in 2014 and 2015, I saw it firsthand. A couple would come in and it would be like, I get to pick the colors and my husband gets to pick the grill. And there have been such dynamic shifts in this where women and grilling is the fastest growing category and the fastest use and the fastest growing usage category in this product. And I think that has a lot to do with aesthetic, color, and features that are very meaningful. I'll give you one quick example. My mother, God bless her, she's 74 years old. For her to roast a chicken in the oven at 450 degrees, no problem, blindfolded. For her to light a barbecue, the fear of that poof, that flame and hair is a major, major thing in many women. Mm-hmm. I've heard it a million times. So these technologies that are being changed by the manufacturers are opening their product line to a much wider audience. And I think that's a huge factor.
I'm the griller in this house, so I'll say that proudly, but
Great.
My husband might argue with that. Well, I think there was one last question and then we'll close out for the evening, but the outdoors are often an afterthought when designing a home. So how are you approaching, when you're in the planning phase, I'd say Mike and Lori, with your clients, how are you approaching this and pushing your clients to really be thoughtful of how they might want their outdoor space for future use so that you design it at the outset? Lori, I'll start with you. I know you guys work often with architects and designers and you're all collaborating at the same time.
Yeah, I'm actually in a little bit of an unusual position because I have an architectural degree, but I'm not an interior designer. So I'm just like this third person. So I often work with interior designers and architects. And so I'm really known for like hard surface design and sort of the spatial design, but I would never do furniture and things like that. So it's a little bit tricky. I think a lot of times you know, when I'm brought into the project, the kitchen's already, you know, sometimes laid out, and then I have to do a lot of tweaking of it. It's very rare that I would go in and have a blank slate where they'd say, here you go, Lori. It happens with a few architects that I work with, but not as often as I'd like. So a lot of times the architects, you know, already put the barbecue where they want it in the outside, and I can make suggestions with certain people, but you know, certain people, you know.
Yes, we know how that can be.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
Who typically hires you, the designer or the architect or the builder?
You know what? It's all the above. It's the builder, the architect, the homeowner, the interior designer, not necessarily hires me, but recommends me to the homeowner. Usually the homeowner hires me, but it's often a recommendation.
That's great. What about you, Mike? You know, when you guys are in planning phase, is that something?
My number one advice to my clients is to spend as much time and money as they can with a qualified architect or a designer. And there's a lot of them out there. It's much cheaper to make your mistakes on paper. If you're doing a kitchen, the little bit of money you would spend on somebody like Lori comes back 100-fold in her knowledge, her experience, her familiarity with products, with features, with what works and what doesn't work. So my advice, and it's my job to implement a designer or an architect's and owner's vision. So I have opinions, but it's really my job to take their plans and make it real. But anytime that you spend with a designer or an architect, I tell them every dollar you spend on an architect will come back 100 times to you, or a qualified vendor like Ryan. He has studied this thing every day, all day for a career. And if I was going to design an outdoor kitchen area, I would go speak to someone like Ryan that just can really benefit me for very little investment. So that's my number one advice. Hire qualified people. The difference between a kitchen that you and your neighbor design and a kitchen design, outdoor kitchen designed by Lori, it's untold.
Yeah, I can tell from that. So really, you know, the object is working with the best and quality. It all comes back to quality so that it's timeless, classic, and longstanding. So we're very thankful to have the best of the best here with us tonight. We learned so much about new appliances, paella stations, which is very, what do I say? It's very modest. And materials, appliances, how we might be using the outdoor space and how the outdoor floor plan might change, which I think would be really great to catch up in a year, all of us, to see what has changed since then, right? So thank you for your time. We know you're on Zooms nonstop, so we appreciate it. Thank you for your families giving you the time and your jobs giving us your time. And we hope, thank you to everyone who was listening. We hope you gained something from this, and we'll tune back in for the next discussion.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.